Alright guys, today we're doing an engine compression test. This is what it looks like. I just got this kit from AutoZone. They rented it out for like $40. I get that back when I return it. So it's free if you do it through AutoZone. The first step that we have to do is go ahead and warm up the car. So you may be able to tell it's running behind me. I'm getting it warming up. It says to operating temperature. So once that little needle opens and the thermostat opens, that's operating temperature. The needle will get to about the halfway point. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and undo all of the spark plugs on it and plug this into the spark plugs, and we're going to crank it over. We're going to do a dry and a wet test. Dry is just regular, and then wet, I've got this fogging oil here. This fogging oil, you can use regular oil. This is just aerosol, so it's going to be easier for me, I think, just because these are kind of deep grooves, and I don't have a long funnel. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to record all the data and see how our engine is doing, guys. Alright, so let's go ahead and we're going to let that warm up to operating temperature, and we'll go ahead and remove spark plugs. Alright guys, as you can see, we are just at about operating temperature right there. We're just under the halfway point. It'll probably move up a little bit more, and I'll give it another minute or so. But once that's done, we can go ahead and shut this off. And then once we shut it off, we have to be careful because the engine's going to be hot now. But we're going to go ahead and remove the spark plugs, and we're going to go ahead and check the compression. Alright guys, so we went ahead, warmed our engine up, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pull some spark plugs. So right here we have our distributor, and these are the spark plug wires that come out of it. And as you can see, we've got some spark plugs down in there, down in that hole. It's hard kind of to see. And then we've got one in the front here, then 2 and 3 on this side. And then on this side, these are set slightly further back. We got one down in there, one down in there, and then one down over there. Now all this, excuse me. So what we're gonna do, and these are labeled on top of the distributor. We've got cylinders 1, 3, and 5 on this side, 1, 3, 5, and then on this side we've got 2, 4, and 6 going back. So what we've got here, this is my service manual that I'm keeping now for my 300ZX service log there. And it's a good thing to keep like this. So I got oil change, transmission change, timing belt replacement, and now I've got the cylinder compression test. Excuse me, guys. Compression test. So what I've done here is I've written cylinders 1 through 6, and then I've written PSI dry and PSI wet. We're going to do the dry and the wet test, like I said, with the fogging oil right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do dry first. So cylinder 1 is going to be the easiest to get to, because that's the one right here. And it's just pull that out and then stick the thing down in there, pull it back up. It's really easy. So let's go ahead and we're going to undo those spark plugs. This instructions here just says to loosen all of them 1 turn. I've seen people take all of the spark plugs just all the way out. So I don't know. I'll just do whatever I feel like, because some of these are kind of hard to get to. If you've ever replaced the spark plugs on these, you know they're down in really deep holes, real deep chasms for some reason. So we're going to go ahead and do that. You may notice in this testing kit, we've got this end right here. It's got 2 different diameters of threads, and then we've got an extra one right here just in case. I'm not sure which one I'll use yet. When I pull the spark plugs out, I'll go ahead and check the threads on these, see which one lines up. And also while you're doing this, if you haven't replaced your spark plugs, this is a good, spark plugs are a good window into your engine and how it's doing. So definitely pay attention if you've got oil fouling, or if it's running really lean. I think that's a white kind of coating that's going to be on everything. So definitely check that out. These are brand new spark plugs that I put in probably like 30 miles ago, just because I haven't driven it that much. So we'll definitely see how well they've held up. They probably won't have anything on them yet, but definitely if you guys haven't checked your spark plugs in a while or haven't replaced them, it's going to be a good indicator of what your engine is actually running like. So let's go ahead and pull those spark plugs, and we'll go ahead and do the compression tests.
Alright guys, I'm going to kind of try to hold this in focus here for you. This is the spark plug that I pulled out of cylinder number 1. As you can see, there's a little bit of white on the tip, on the electrode part. There's nothing, it is all clear and white on the rest of it. So as it looks, it's pretty decent. Excuse me. Definitely always make sure to check your spark plugs and look at them. As you can see, mine's got no corrosion on it. Of course, like I said, these were just brand new spark plugs, so they shouldn't have very much on them at all. So always, you can go online, just look up spark plug problems, symptoms, or whatever, and you can find an entire list of like pictures that show you what your spark plug is. So since this is all perfect white and everything, and there doesn't look to be any buildup on it yet, it just looks like all combustion stuff, I'm going to go ahead and say this is fine for right now. I'm definitely going to want to check these later too, just because. And remember to use anti-seize when you put these back in. I didn't use anti-seize. Alright guys, one thing to note, here is the end of my pressure tester. What I've done is I put black electrical tape on it, and I did it really tight around as hard as I could. And that's because when I was sticking this out of cylinder 1, it got stuck. The adapter got stuck in there and the rest of it just unscrewed. It took me about 15 minutes to get this back out. So what you guys want to do is definitely tape it up, make sure it doesn't come out on you. I put some white Teflon in between the threads themselves, and then I put this black electrical tape on the outside. So hopefully it'll stay in. I'm going to go ahead and do cylinder 3 and 5 with this. I shouldn't see any problems. If I do, I'll let you guys know. But remember, tape it up. Just, I don't know, for some reason, whoever designed this in 1986 wasn't very smart, and they didn't make enough room to actually get a socket in there to take this out. This is a 3/4 inch socket size right here, but you don't have enough space in those channels to actually get a 3/4 inch in there. So definitely tape it up. You don't want to get it stuck in like I did. I had to take a screwdriver and like shove it down in the end and like kind of slowly twist it. I had to take some fogging oil too, and I sprayed it down in there to help lubricate it, because I think it was getting stuck on some dirt or something. But there you go guys, make sure to tape it up, and we're going to go ahead and do cylinders 1 and 2, or sorry, 3 and 5. Alright guys, so just like before, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over. This one didn't screw in, the threads didn't go in as far as the first one did. So we'll see. If it's not good compression, I'll probably take it out and then put it back in if it's leaking through the threads. But we'll go ahead and see. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over and try again. Yeah, see, I'm not sure if it's getting good pressure or not, because that's pretty low. Alright, so I went ahead and moved on to the wet test. Basically what I did is I'm taking the fogging oil and spraying it for a couple seconds in each cylinder. That's going to help coat the walls. Basically what we want to see is about the same pressure. It's probably going to be a little bit more, just because that's how it works. It seals up all of the little cracks in the rings. So we'll see how it does. This is cylinder 3, or sorry, cylinder 5. Got just about 120, which is just about what we had dry as well. Alright guys, so I did the first 3 cylinders, and now what I'm doing is I went and actually had lunch, but what I did is I put it all back together and I started it up. And this is for a couple reasons. One, if you can see, you might not be able to, it's smoking a little bit, and that's just normal because you have all that unused gas that you had in your injectors coming out still, and so that's all burning off. And mainly the big thing is that I'm trying to warm it back up. So we'll go inside here. And as you can see, it's cooled down, you know. We've had the hood open, so it hasn't really had time to warm back up. It's got a lot of time to cool down. So what we're gonna do right now is we're just letting it warm back up. Once it's done, we can go ahead and do the other three. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. And just make sure, guys, because what you want is your engine to be warm, because that's going to make the piston rings bigger, and it's going to seal more gaps, and it's going to make your compression test a lot more accurate to what it actually is going to be when you're running. So that's what I'm going to do, and then we'll go ahead and do the other three. So right now I've got the first three. Cylinder 3 is looking okay. I think I just didn't get to screw it in all the way, and so we'll go over those at the end. I'll go ahead and show you guys the final results for mine and what that really means, basically. And I forgot to mention, guys, part of the reason why it's smoking is because we did put oil in the cylinder. So it's going to be a little bit of white smoke, and it's going to look like you're burning oil, and that's because you're burning the oil you put in. But once that goes in, it'll go ahead and clear up, and you guys will be fine. So just as long as you plug in all your spark plug wires and plug everything back in, you should be good. There's really nothing you can do just running it like this that would hurt it. So just remember that, guys. You should be fine. Alright, guys, well, here are the results from our compression test. As you can see right here, I've got the dry numbers and then / the wet numbers for each of the cylinders, and you've got the orientation going from cylinder 1 all the way back to cylinder 6. So first what we're going to go ahead and talk about is I've changed the colors, as you can see here, for the different health of the cylinders. So as you can see, cylinder 1 had a dry pressure of 120 psi and a wet pressure of 120 psi. And this contrasts with cylinder 3 right next to it, which had a pressure of 75 dry and 95 wet. So basically what I want to talk about here is good pressure versus bad pressure. So inherently you're going to see different pressures in each of your cylinders because for some reason car companies can't manufacture everything the same. You know, you can't have an exact copy. So one thing is going to wear differently depending on how it's made out of, the composition and stuff. So right now what you can do, I'm going to go ahead and discard cylinder 3 for a second because I'll talk about that in just a bit. But my average pressures on the left side, or the passenger side of the engine for me, since I'm in America here, I guess it'd be different if you were in Europe. But we'll say it's 120 for the driver's, or for the passenger side, and then we'll go with 140 for the driver's side. So basically what you want to do is you want to take your lowest number and divide it by your higher number. So that's 120 divided by 145. And that's going to give you 120 over 145. Got a calculator here. That's 0.82. So that's about 17% difference between the two of them. You just take one and subtract that out. So you got about a 17% difference. And really, in real life, you don't want to really have more than a 15% difference. And I think I've got an explanation for why this is. Basically, when I did my tests on the left side, I did all those tests, and then I stopped, and then I did the tests on the right side, right being 2, 4, and 6. And so when I did that in between there, I turned the car back on and heated it back up. And I think the reason why I got better test results on the right side, 2, 4, and 6, is because I actually heated it up and then pulled those spark plugs faster. It took me actually quite a while to get the spark plugs out on the passenger side, 1, 3, 5. In order to pull them out and then get the spark plug in, I had to film all of that stuff still, and I didn't film anything for 2, 4, and 6. So what I think happened is that the side 1, 3, 5, they actually cooled faster than 2, 4, and 6. And so what I think this did is this let more pressure out. Obviously, guys, this is just speculation for me. I cannot say with 100% certainty that those sides aren't worn more than the 2, 4, and 6. But I can say, based on what I've done, it was a lot cooler. It was significantly cooler when I did those tests than it was the other side. And you might have seen in that video, I put a caption kind of thing. It says that the reason you want to heat it up is because you want to get those piston rings to expand and to kind of fill up as many gaps as they can. And so that's why I think that I got better pressures for 2, 4, 6, is because I actually did those while they were warmer.
So cylinder 3, you can see it had a low pressure or a dry pressure of 75 and then a wet pressure of 95, which is in stark contrast to all the other ones, especially 246 were up in the 130s, 140s, even up to 150 in the wet test on cylinder 6. So what I think happened with cylinder 3 is I actually didn't get a very good seal when I was putting in the test. For some reason, my spark plug holes had a lot of dirt and grime kind of just built up on them, and I couldn't really clean that away very well without having the dirt fall in the pistons or fall in the cylinders, and I didn't really want to do that. So I really only got the test actually in like about a full turn, just one turn, and if you look at spark plug threads, they're actually not that thick. So that wasn't actually a very good seal for me, which is why I think that I got bad pressure on that. I can see in the video it was actually still going up a bit when I actually stopped, when I released it. So that's why I think I didn't get very good pressure on that. Again, this is just speculation. I actually could have absolutely destroyed cylinder number 3. Well, not me, but the engine could have destroyed cylinder number 3. And, I just don't know if that's 100% accurate, so that's why I'm kind of tentative, just because all the other cylinders are actually doing pretty well. I think 120 is about a good range. The further you go down from 120, the more your engine has wear on it, and then the higher than that, better you actually have. So that's why I think that cylinder 3 is just kind of that oddball out. I didn't get a full seal, and then when I sprayed oil into it as well, what happened is I think that actually kind of sealed the threads a little bit because I had the fogging oil and it wasn't actual just liquid oil, so I think it got on the threads a little bit too, which is why it boosted up so much compared to the other ones, which only jumped like about 5 maximum. So that's why I think that happened. I don't think that it's in terrible condition. Again, I can't say for sure, but that's what I think. And for cylinders 2, 4, and 6, one thing I noticed when I took everything out is that the spark plug boot wires coming from the distributor, they weren't actually fully on the spark plugs. If you've ever worked on this engine or if you've done this test and you're watching this, you'll know it is extremely difficult to get to that side for some reason. There's the idle air control valve, we got the throttle body in the way, there's a whole bunch of stuff in the way on that side. And so it makes it really difficult. So when I changed my spark plugs when I first got this engine, or when I got this car, I don't think I got the boots on all the way. And so when I pulled the spark plugs out, I'll go ahead and show you a picture, or I showed you a picture already of my spark plugs from 1, 3, and 5. They were black and then with a little bit of white, and that's what a normal spark plug looks like. You should have some charring just from explosions, and then it should be pretty fine. You shouldn't see any corrosion or anything. But when I pulled the spark plugs from 2, 4, and 6, there wasn't any charring at all on them, so I don't think that was even firing. So that might be one of the reasons why my engine doesn't want to go very fast. It was running on 3 cylinders. I'm going to check that and look at the firing order, because if it goes one side, next side, one side, next side, one side, next side, it could have just been cutting it in half and then only firing 1, 3, and 5, giving me half of the horsepower that I should have had. So I'm definitely going to check on that. I put it back together. I got the boots on. But if you've been following me, you may know that my car's actually had a problem with the injectors have been clogged up. And so I put some seafoam in, and I've been driving it around. But then I actually filled it up with more gas, and I think that diluted the seafoam enough to where there wasn't actually any more seafoam in, or a lot of seafoam in the tank. So when I put the spark plugs back on, I don't think that they're being cleaned out like the first 3 were. When I first got the car, the engine just did not like to start. It didn't like to do anything. And that was because those injectors were clogged. Now it starts a bit faster, and that's because those 3, 1, 3, and 5 are unclogged. But I still think 2, 4, and 6 are clogged, and I don't know if they're firing. I'm going to pull the spark plugs again. Not 4, because 4 is absolutely terrible to get to, but 2 is actually pretty easy to get the boot on, and then 6, you can actually reach your hand behind the engine, right next to the firewall, and click it on with your right hand. So that's what I'm going to do with those ones. I'm going to check that they're still firing. Other than that, the pressures on that side are actually really good, so I'm super happy about that. Overall, the engine, I think, is in good condition. As you can see, cylinder 3 might be the problem. And the thing is, when you have low compression, and this is more apparent, especially when you have like no compression at all. Like if you do a compression test and you have 0 compression in a cylinder, that's just, your cylinder is just destroyed. You can't use it anymore. You got to get a new engine, or you got to resurface they can actually bore out that cylinder and then put a new piston in with new piston rings that are actually wider diameter to fill up that place that now got cut out. So basically, if you have low compression in one of your cylinders, say cylinder 3 for me, if I had like maybe 30 or 40 psi in there, and I was actually like really low, and I screwed it in all the way, and I was absolutely 100% sure of the seal, and it had low compression, that would be very bad. And another way, if you're getting a misfire in that cylinder, that means you could have bad compression as well. So if you're getting a misfire, and I mean, of course, this car is 1986, 32 years old, so it's not going to have a very sophisticated computer on it. But this is just for like more modern engines too. If you have a misfire in that cylinder and it pops up your engine light, like check your engine, and you have a misfire, that could be causing, the low compression could be causing that misfire. But I'm not having misfires. I'm not having any problems at all. I think I just got a bad seal, so that's what I'm going to say with this. So this is how you do your engine compression check, guys. I'm super thankful for you guys watching this video. If you have any questions, please leave it down below. Like I said, I got my compression check tool from AutoZone. It was $40, and then when I returned it, they gave it back to me. They got that loan a tool thing or whatever. So it was super easy. It took me about maybe 2.5 to 3 hours, but that was with me filming. So I imagine if I were to do this without that, it would only take an hour to an hour and a half maximum. So there you go, guys. If you have any questions or comments, it doesn't even have to be related to this video. Just go ahead and stick it down below. I love hearing from you guys. I've got tons of questions, and I'm really happy when I get to fix things for you guys. I'm like, hey, well, what about that? And that just makes me really happy. So go ahead, stick your questions, comments down below. Give this a thumbs up if it helped, and I will see you guys in the next video.